Good morning, Skinny Povey here with Gardening Simplified, and I'm working on tomato plants this morning. What I'm trying to do is give them a haircut. Basically, I've got my scissors here, and I'm coming in. You can see these limbs that are touching the ground here. The leaves starting to get spotty and stuff. We don't want this to spread to the whole plant. What I do is I come right up here by the plant about a half an inch away, and I just trim that off. I leave that little sucker. Now, people tell you all the time, prune those suckers out. Now, these are celebrities, which are an indeterminate, but they're basically kind of like they act a lot like a determinant, which they put on a whole lot of fruit all about the same time early, and then they continue to drizzle it on, throughout the season. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that you keep your plant healthy, and you want those suckers, because those suckers are what's going to grow out and put on more fruit. Yes, it does make the plant bushy, but it makes your production levels a whole lot higher. Now, I'm being real particular. These leaves here that have little holes in them and stuff, I'm taking these limbs off too. The plant, now it will survive, but it's going to be easier for it to survive if I take off the part of it that's damaged, and even if it's cutting off part of a limb so it doesn't travel on up. And I'll kind of be particular about it and cut it how far I need to cut it back. Now, they will come back. It's kind of cool this morning. It's about 45 degrees. Have a little front come through, and so they're not going to have a whole lot of stress today from a bunch of heat. If I go ahead and prune these, I've already pruned these ones back here, but you can see on some of these suckers are coming on out. And like I say, a lot of people, you can see how large some of these are. It won't be long, this will be setting up flower heads and it'll be blooming. It's just a matter of tying it up with the rest and keeping them vined up. And then as starts shading out the lower leaves, and you can normally tell they'll start yellowing or something, just trim them out, and we'll do it throughout the season. But you're wanting to make sure to get maximum production off a little plant. It doesn't matter how big this plant gets. If you're concerned with a big plant, and that's what's going to get you excited, go for it. But production is what you're looking for. So I say don't pour extra nitrogen or something. I use a balanced fertilizer for these, and I'll be using an organic fertilizer that's a little lower in nitrogen too, so I have more potassium and potash in there, so it'll encourage more fruit and healthier root system. Now, my peppers here, they're doing good. They didn't really like the cool weather last night, but they're doing good. But it's going to get a little bit cooler tomorrow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover these tonight. I have a bunch of the black pots like you buy trees in, and these are still small enough plants that you can take and cover them. A lot of people worry if the leaves touch the sides of the pot or something, it might damage them, but it's not going to be enough to hurt them. I don't want them, they're, like I say, they're in the process right now. They're blooming heavy. These are the jalapenos, and they're really doing good, so I want to encourage them to keep going that way. Same thing with my bell peppers. They're small plants, but you can see they're getting ready to start flowering. on there. It's going to be a while before they'll actually have peppers on them. But we want to make sure that we protect them at this stage so we don't stun them. Okay, looks like I got all my tomatoes have a haircut now. They don't look as big and bushy, but like I say, that doesn't make a difference. They've got a good strong rootstock. They'll come back really strong because anytime you prune a plant, and the thing is, if you're going to prune your tomatoes, if you can pick an overcast day, maybe a day that's going to rain or something like that, cooler days, that's the best time. Like I say today, it's nice cool weather. But I want to tell you, like I say, I leave these suckers. Now I leave the suckers that they're up there high enough, and understand these suckers are going to make another full plant just like it is up here. Now, people worry about, oh, it's going to rob and the tomatoes aren't going to do and stuff. This plant is building a strong root system. If you take and fertilize it, you water it good, it's going to be healthy. But as you notice, this plant branches right here, it splits. You have two different plants. Now this one is earlier, so it's going to be it's flowering just a little bit earlier. The other part here that's not quite as early, as you can see, it's already putting on flowers too. So this will be flowering. If you cut these off, you're going to lose all these extra tomatoes that you can have from your plant. And be aware of that. This plant here, it's the same way. You have the one stalk here. Well, you can see this is a sucker. You see where I took the limb off here? This is actually a sucker. This one is full of flowers. This sucker that's coming up here it's full of flowers. So you're going to have all these flowers up there producing tomatoes too. And you want to do this. You want these to come on early. You want your crop early. If you're growing your vine out and you keep cutting the suckers out and growing it out, you get into the hotter part of the summer when the temperatures start getting above they say 85 maybe ideally, but when it starts getting up into the 90s, the flowers aren't going to set. It's harder to get flowers to set. You can kind of try to pollinate them yourself, but the heat is so hard on these plants that the flowers aren't going to set. But all these where I trimmed out, and I trimmed off these lower limbs, I trim them out about 1/2 inch because I want this sucker to come out. But one reason why I say you want to do this whenever it's overcast or something. Now you can see right here the liquid that's coming out at the end of that plant because it's still trying to feed that branch that come out there. When you do this whenever it's cooler or overcast, it'll be less stress on them. You can actually see a drip forming on that one there where it's pulling water up from the roots. Make sure they're watered good, and like I say, you keep them in your soil, you keep them fertilized good. You don't want to use a lot of nitrogen. Once they get up to where they start putting on their blooms and fixing the fruit, you don't want a lot of nitrogen because you don't want to encourage your plant growth. I don't care how short these are. If you have a good fertilizer balance for making fruit and growing roots, your production is going to be high. You want a plant that's going to be able to sustain that. And these will do good because they have good solid stock on them. They're not trying to fall over. So be aware of that. Make sure that you go ahead and prune them. You're letting more air in between them. You're encouraging growth on them. You want these to get bushy in a hurry and make a lot of tomatoes. That's the whole point here. Once you've finished all your pruning off the limbs that are touching the ground and that might be looking like they're diseased or damaged, make sure you take the time to rake them and get them out of your garden roll. If they are diseased, you don't want them right there close to your plant so that they can get right back on it. And it's excellent material to be composted. If they are diseased, the heat from the compost process will take and kill it, and you won't, and you'll be able to recycle these.